Which way's east?
I'm not trying to set any records or anything like that, and I'm not trying to make sort of a statement about, you know, I don't know, my sailing abilities or anything like that, but there's something about being able to go and do the whole trip around without stopping and getting back, doing it on your own. I feel like things like this are slowly fading into the background, and you know, maybe it takes doing trips like these to remind people, you know, what life is really all about.
Basically, I sailed all the way around the world. That was incredible. You sort of, it's like standing at the deep end and you take your deep breath and you just dive right in.
Holy cow! Oh, just came up on deck and BAM! Wow. Oh, there he is again. Oh, wow. Hello, well.
Typically, when people do this, they're leaving from Europe, they're leaving from England, or they're going to leave from France. To leave from America is a bit more of a challenge because I had to cut across the hurricane path.
Welcome to Buzz Talk Live. In 2017, my guest Jerome Rand piloted a 32-foot, 40-year-old West Sail 32 named the Mighty Sparrow on a solo, non-stop trip around the world. He spent over 270 days at sea and traveled nearly 30,000 miles as he circumnavigated the globe. He is one of only a few sailors known to attempt and complete such an adventurous and dangerous voyage. Adventurous sailor, author, and now motivational speaker, Jerome Rand is here tonight to discuss his incredible journey with us and to give us all inspiring insight of his life-changing experience. Please chat and welcome adventurer Jerome Rand to Buzz Talk Live. How you doing, Jerome?
Very good, George. How are you doing? Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. And let me just get this right out right now, right here and now. You're incredible, and you're going to hear a lot of that incredible tonight because what you did is amazing. I think I've done some research on it, and I think there was an older gentleman that did something, but I don't think he traveled as many miles as you. I don't know. The jury's out. I think you got it, man. I think you got it.
Well, it is definitely a sort of unusual adventure to go on for sure. But yeah, I mean, when you talk about the numbers and everything, there's different ways to get around the world. And I'm sure we'll talk about that when we have the map up. But
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for doing a traditional round the world trip in a boat this small, 32 feet or less, I'm pretty sure there's only about 4 of us that have ever completed it. So
yeah,
more people have been on the moon.
Right. And you're cut from a certain part of that stone that no fear. You got big ones, my friend. I tell you.
Well, there was plenty of fear out there.
Yeah, I bet, and we're gonna get into it for sure. First off, are you on the Sparrow right now?
I am. I'm aboard Mighty Sparrow as we speak, down in South Carolina. It's a little chilly out, but
yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I got snow out here, dude. Come on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it probably isn't any worse than where you're at. So we're sitting in the low 40s, I think, today.
Oh God, yeah, it's a summer breeze for crying out loud. I don't know where to start because there's so many starting points with your background and your achievements. But When you were younger, you did the Appalachian Trail, correct?
Yeah, and that in a lot of ways gave me a lot of the skills that I think I needed, and some of the confidence to not only take on a really big challenge, but also to know that I'm sort of capable of staying alone for extended periods of time. Because
Right.
about halfway through the Appalachian Trail, the majority of hikers have already quit. And so, the last 75 days or so, you're pretty much alone almost all the time. And,
Right. And that
you,
trip is from Georgia to Maine or something like that, right?
yeah, so it goes through 14 states and over the Appalachian Mountains. It's about 2,200 miles, give
Wow.
or take a few. And it took me 4.5 months to do that one.
Wow. That's crazy, man. So let's see, you're on land there, and now you get yourself in the water.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. I think I say it in the book, that I basically finished that trail, and I definitely, I knew I wanted to take on the next challenge of sailing around the world, but all I had was a dirty backpack, a filthy beard, and no money at all. But I decided I was going to do it anyway, and I had
So
to come up with a pretty severe game plan to make sure it happens.
yeah, and I want to talk about that game plan because it's not every day that you think about doing something like this, and the planning that goes, that's involved in just putting this all together. How long did it take you to, plan this out and cross the dots, dot the I's and cross the T's?
Well, basically, so because I didn't have any funds, and one of the things when I was sort of thinking about the trip, because it's a solo adventure, I really wanted to try and do the whole thing start to finish by myself and sort of, with my own two hands, so to speak. And
Right.
so I didn't want to do any sort of sponsorships or anything like that. And
Really?
that basically meant that for the first 3 years of the plan was just to basically save as much money as I possibly could. I was working at a resort down in the Caribbean, so I lived on
Oh, wow.
site, and that allowed me to save basically everything. And
Right.
I worked all the time, so I had 3 years of saving, then a year to get the boat, fix the boat, and figure out how to solo sail, and then the 5th year would be the actual trip.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible. um, so you got, how did you acquire the boat? How did you, first of all, how did you figure out that would be the boat to use on something like this and all that?
Well, the first, and it's relatable to almost everybody because almost everybody's seen that movie or read the book, The Perfect Storm.
Right.
And if you remember, there was a sailboat that was caught up in that storm as well as the Andrea Gale, and it was called Satori, and it was actually a West Sail 32.
Oh,
And
really?
the interesting part about it was that even though the crew were pulled off by the Coast Guard, that boat managed to sail itself through the rest of the storm and beached itself on the Jersey shore with the mast, the rudder. Basically, it was in still saleable condition. And so I figured if the boat could actually make it through the perfect storm,
Yeah.
then it was worth investigating. And so I did a bunch of research, and luckily with West Sail 32s, there's a ton. It's like a cult classic boat in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so there's a ton of information. I could do a bunch of research to figure out, where the pros and where the cons were, and try and fix all the cons as best I could. And
Right.
the other thing was that there's enough of them available. They're an American-made boat, and they're basically, there's probably 1,000 of them still sailing the ocean, even
Really?
though they're 40 years old. And
So they stopped
they're-
making them? They stopped making the boats, or
yeah, they stopped making them. The company, I think, went bankrupt
Oh.
sometime in the late 70s or early 80s. They basically were selling a package where you could order a boat, pay 25 grand, and then sign the contract, and it would come within the next few years. But then the oil crisis hit in the 70s,
Right.
and the price of the resin to make these boats shot through the roof.
Oh, wow.
And so all of a sudden they were basically producing these boats and making no money, but they had, you know, hundreds of orders, and long story short, it sort of buried them. But interestingly enough, because there was such a shortage of resin to basically harden fiberglass and make these boats, they
Right.
had to go through different means to find the stuff. And what they used was a much higher quality resin than is typically used on sailboats. And so to this day, these are some of the only boats that they can sit in the water for years and years and years. And when they get hauled out, the hull is in perfect condition still.
Really?
And most boats will start to get little blisters and sort of get soggy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
These boats don't suffer from that.
Wow. Now I noticed, you know, look, I'm not a boat owner, but as far as knowing about somewhat about sailboats, it's the mast, and then you have the sail, and then you have the keel, and the keel, does that replicate the sturdiness of so the boat doesn't tip, or how does that?
Yeah, essentially it's a big counterbalance. So it keeps the boat upright, and then also it's always in sort of a streamline or a fin shape, so that when your boat is moving, it's going to move in the forward direction instead of, you know, just side slipping through the water.
Right,
so
right.
all that surface area prevents it. And on this boat, and you'll see it with the pictures of the boat out of the water, it's a full length keel. So it really can just drive through the water well. It's a slow boat by modern standards, very slow, but it's built like an absolute tank. And this boat can handle much worse weather, where all the other boats are mismasting and sinking. This boat is just going along, and I'm down below having a nap, basically.
Really?
Believe it or
Wow.
not.
Yeah, we're gonna get to some of your naps, my friend, because let me tell you, this is an insane trip that you took, and we're gonna get into all the emotions that you might have had during the trip, and I have plenty of video and pictures of this incredible journey you took. But just to get back to as far as the prep and also the map. Now I'm going to put the map up here. So talk to us about the journey that you decided to take. Now, leaving from North America, leaving from up north near Massachusetts, where you left from. What made you decide to go this route as far as others that you might have?
Well, so this is basically what would be considered the old clipper ship route, and it's sort of goes back to the great age of sailing with the tall ships. Basically, before the Panama Canal was there, if they wanted to go get all the spices and the timber in Australia, they had to go down the Southern Ocean route, and so everything below the continents, the winds are typically blowing from west to east. So the boats would typically leave from Europe, and they would head down
Right.
the Atlantics. And then as soon as they got into the Southern Ocean, they could just scream downwind, go to wherever they needed to, and then they'd cross the Pacific, round Cape Horn, and then head up. And so my trip was basically that, except I left from the United States. And yeah, I still haven't found any other circumnavigations like nonstop that have actually left from the United States, but there might be some out there, but
Yeah.
I really wanted to, have sort of the American-made boat, the American sailor, and leave from America. But
Yeah, man.
the trip is basically like 3 parts. So you do the North Atlantic during the hurricane season, which is always a little scary. And then you get down, so you've done the Atlantics, then it's all about survival in the Southern Ocean. You get around Cape Horn as early as you can, or as late as I did. And then the trip sort of transforms from survival, physically surviving, to mentally surviving, because as you head back into the Atlantic, you've been at sea by yourself for 200 and some days.
Wow.
And you're still looking at another 60 days or so on the water. And so you're mentally, and I'm sure you've seen it in some of the videos, sort of that 1,000-mile stare, and the big beard, and you're just, you know, you're sort of losing it mentally, and you have to kind of keep it together.
Now, this route that you took here, now it brings you. I mean, everybody talks about the Bermuda Triangle and the whole, you know, mystery, the mystery about the triangle. Did you even come close, or were you aware of that, or?
Oh yeah. I've sailed through the Bermuda Triangle many times, and I mean, I sailed through it anywhere from the Caribbean, pretty much heading up to the East Coast. You're going to sail through it.
Did you find any like lost planes or anything like that?
No, I never saw anything like that. I think the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle just happens to be that the Gulf Stream is really strong in that section, and also hurricanes love to pass right through there. So
right.
I've seen some pretty nasty weather in the Gulf Stream that could easily explain some of the disappearances of both boats and planes.
Yeah. Oh my God. So you got, all right. So you're planning this trip. You got you're prepping the boat, right? And how was the condition of the boat like when you first bought it? And was there, obviously you did work on it, and
yeah, I'd say the boat was probably about 2/3 of the way complete when I got it. You know, we put the mast up, and a lot of the wires that held it up didn't fit. There were a lot of issues with the actual, you know, mechanical engine problems. There was, you know, sort of a list that comes along with every boat. Right. But some of the big stuff was just beefing up a lot of the rigging that was on the boat already. So making it either bigger, stronger, adding more stainless steel to it, to just really make it as bulletproof as possible, because the biggest thing that you worry about when you're that far offshore is that if you lose your mast, you've just lost basically your power source. You're not going to be moving very fast. And so we sort of beefed up everything. I worked with a couple riggers up in Maine, but primarily did most of the stuff myself. My younger brother came up for about a week, and he helped me with a lot of it. And you know, just trying to make the boat as solid as humanly possible. And we did have my younger brother helped me with actually putting the boat together. My older brother built the sails that I was going to use to go through the Southern Ocean. He's a professional sailmaker.
Oh, okay.
So
oh, wow.
It sort of runs in the family. I didn't, in some ways, I didn't need a sponsorship team because I already had two brothers that.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. That you didn't take any sponsors, and the sponsors alone would, you know, help you, you know. And
and it's to my own detriment. I still, there's sometimes I don't know why I like to do that, but it does, you know, in the end.
You don't have to answer to anybody, right?
Exactly, and you don't feel like anybody else is trying to make anything off of your trip. And I will say, when I do get to talk to schools, high schools, grade schools, and all that, it's very nice to be able to send that message of you know, you set up a game plan, you work hard, you save, and look what you can do.
That's right. That's awesome. So you know, in the whole planning process and everything, and you know, you got obviously, I would think the number one and the number two thing you have to worry about is food and water, right? I mean, that's something that you have to consider along the trip. Aside from your personal safety, God forbid you get sick or anything like that, you know. My God, you must have had like a booklet of things that you just jotted down for over 5 years. Just, okay, I got to remember to do this. I got to remember to do that. I mean.
Oh, yeah. I had lists and lists. I had this big notebook, and I would fill out the page, and I'd slowly cross things off. And then I'd basically flip it over and then start a new list the next day. And this went on and on and on. I still have it in my maintenance log, and it's just page after page of crossed out little items that I needed or tasks that needed to be done. But yeah, I mean, the that's probably one of the biggest questions that I get is about food and how I'm able to pack that much food on a boat like this. And
Now these are portioned food.
yeah, those are all individual servings. And one of the things that sort of got me into trouble was that I was sort of counting those things as an entire meal. And when it came down to it and I started running low on food, you know, I started really looking at the calories and such, and most of those are only in the 200 to 400 calorie range. And that definitely doesn't qualify as a full meal if you're in a cold place and you're working pretty hard.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
But I had, you know, hundreds of those things. I had tons of camping food, spaghetti, oatmeal. I mean, I had about 1 month of normal food, you know, frozen meats and vegetables, potatoes, eggs, all that sort of stuff. But it was only maybe 45, 50 days into the trip when all that was gone, and then it was right into
this is a shot of the inside, right where you are right now.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, come on, Jerome, you're a mess. Look at that.
Yeah, no, that was. Let's put that into context. So that is
go ahead.
Up there in Maine. And that's when I'm trying to basically start to reorganize. So the first thing you do on a boat when you reorganize is you pull everything out of every cupboard and every cabinet and pile it all up, and then you start to put it back. So
oh wow.
That's not my normal living. And that was on land too.
I gotta try that next time I take care of my bedroom. I just take everything out and put everything back.
Yeah, it works really well.
Oh my God. So all right. So you're setting sail. And you're getting out there on. I mean, we saw in the opening of your. I guess that was your parents or giving you a send off there with the boat. Yep. and getting you all prepped and ready to go and you're off and you're running and you're sailing, man. You're out there and what I mean. God, there's so many questions in my head about your emotions and your feeling that, you know, you're leaving, Massachusetts, you're leaving your hometown and you're looking ahead and you're not looking back. And it's like, and obviously you're a sailor, you're on the water constantly, but now this is something that, you know, you're doing and there's no looking back. You're taking your own word and you're going ahead with it. What's crossing your mind at that point?
It's interesting. I've done enough sailing offshore and, across the Atlantic where I feel pretty comfortable. Now, at that point, it was a little bit nerve-wracking because we had such a busy hurricane season. So, we had Hurricane Irma, Maria, Jose, and I left shortly after Jose. And so I'm headed into the Atlantic during that, but the forecast looked pretty good. And I knew that as long as I got about halfway across, I should be okay. And really the struggle I was having was not trying to consider the trip in its entirety. And it's difficult because obviously you're jumping into this thing that it's kind of hard to back out of. You definitely can't just stop and quit. You're going to have to sail yourself to somewhere. But I was sort of having anxiety about, being in the Southern Ocean and rounding Cape Horn and the Indian, all that sort of stuff, which was going to be months and months away.
Right.
And so I sort of decided in my own head that I was going to just sort of focus on each day individually, get through that day and move on to the next. And with a lot of practice, I was able to sort of get into that momentum of, all right, I got it today. And I knew what the end goal was to make it all the way around.
Right.
I didn't dwell on it. And that sort of lightened the load quite a bit. And it's actually something that's sort of carried over once I got back to land. And, if I'm dealing with any sort of challenges or things like that, I just remember that I just got to make it through the day, because the next day I'll just do the same thing again. But it's an emotional roller coaster that goes up and down with the weather out there. And, within an hour of me leaving Gloucester, muster. The land was gone, and it was all just ocean all around me. And so it's definitely a sort of an interesting feeling. But at that time, I was pretty comfortable because I knew I had at least 2 months before I made it to the Southern Ocean and had to really start to worry.
Now, on some of the shots, there was pictured solar panels and solar panels that I guess for power and whatnot. There's no engine on the boat, or is there an engine on the boat?
There's an old Perkins 50 horsepower engine, and I was able to, I think I had 60 gallons of fuel aboard. And my plan was basically just to be able to run the engine every couple of weeks to top up the batteries if I needed to, but mostly just to run the engine so that it didn't end up sort of seizing up on me. Because
that's emergency,
right? If you don't use them, I mean, if you don't use something with the boat, it's gonna break because the environment's so corrosive. And I would just use it, charge the batteries, and other than that, it just sort of sat there.
We're getting some chats in here, and I better put them up before the topic disappears on us. But let's see here. First off, wow, and congratulations on the success of your trip. A couple questions. What was it like being in the middle of the ocean? What was going through your mind? Well, I think I
love it. I love being out in the middle of the ocean. And as a solo sailor, it's more dangerous when you're closer to shore because there's typically more traffic, big tankers and cargo ships, fishing boats. When you get about 200 miles or so offshore, all of a sudden you have this big safety buffer around you. You can sleep for hours at a time. Obviously you'll have to deal with whatever weather is coming because you can't get into land, but because you have all that room with you, it allows you to be flexible on how you deal with it. And other than that, it's one of the most beautiful places, I think, on the entire planet. Wow. You've just got the sea, you've got the sky and the clouds, and then at night, to be able to describe the stars that you see in the middle of the ocean.
I can just imagine.
Yeah,
oh my
and you're
God.
talking an unbroken horizon all around. It's
that's
sometimes so amazing.
On Facebook, we have need to know the craziest thing you saw, and more importantly, would you do it again? I think the second part of that question.
Well, I actually, in 2020, I attempted to do an even bigger trip where I was leaving for Maine in July, and I was going to head north and go through the Northwest Passage above Canada, down the Pacific, go around Antarctica, and then back up. And that's been dubbed the Figure Eight by another solo sailor named Randall Reeves. And he's the only one who's completed it, but it's never been done without stopping. And my plan was to do it. And I was 20 days into the trip, and I had permission to do it from the Canadian government, but they reassessed all the voyages, and I was basically in between Labrador and Greenland, and they emailed me and said I'm no longer allowed to go in there. So I had to turn around and head into the Atlantic during the busiest hurricane season in recent history. And I was out there for 88 days to get back to the United States.
Wow. And that boat, I tell you, wear and tear on it, and it keeps on going, man.
They don't build them like this anymore.
They don't.
Tell you,
She's
a tank. Boat. I would feel pretty confident with a few supplies and some food and water to head offshore for head down to Cape Horn right now. It's amazing.
Oh really? Oh wow. We have another chat about whales and stuff. I do have a video, what we'll get to in a minute, but I want to show the folks out there the inside of your boat, and you shot some video, and here's just a clip of what the inside of a West Sail 32 looks like. Check it out.
Start out with the old nav station here. This is where I keep track of where everything and where I'm going and all that sort of stuff. But it's great to pour over charts. I got a ton of storage down here, lots and lots of charts and everything, and some more equipment over here. Got the AIS and old GPS and the log books and whatnot. But in here we've got our nice little control panel. It's a little jankety, as you can see, but once you've mustered around in here enough, you know which one is which. But these are all just little stick-on things, and tell you the truth, if somebody ever came in here, they'd probably just wonder what the heck each switch was. But you know, it works for me. And over here we got our galley, so do all my cooking, everything. I got a nice little oven, couple range things. I could make bread, pizzas, whatever. Got the old fresh water right there. This one's salt water, and then it's all storage for dishes and all that sort of stuff. A lot of storage in there, all in here. Here's the fridge. Got a, decent amount of space in there, and then that's all storage in there. Walking up here, we've got the infamous boat head. So this is the old bathroom doing the nasty in here. It's tiny, but it does work. You can imagine being out here in 20-foot waves trying to use this. It's not the best in the world, but it works, and everything's non-electronic, so no matter what, it's still going to work if your batteries die. I got lots of storage back there and under here as well. I got my younger brother Adam right there holding his dirty little socks up. That was a camping trip about 20 years ago. And then this is actually the route on the voyage. So I don't know if you can see that, but that's where I went. So a lot of times I was sitting here for a while and like to ponder what my next trip might be. So who knows? But all in all, it's a real functional, really easy, nice, simple head. But up here, this is where the magic happens, right here. So this is the old bedroom. Got a lot of space up here. It's quite nice. Got my flat screen iPad just right up there so I can watch my programs, watch my stories. Got a nice hatch right above our head. Got a fan in there now because it's been a bit hot down here in South Carolina. Anchor locker and all that. Access is up there. And underneath this whole area is just storage for days. Got the old fitness center. I can do my sit-ups. Got my towels, all that sort of stuff. And that's pretty much Mighty Sparrow.
That's incredible, man. That's incredible. What a
You know how
what
long
a
I
great
had
boat.
to clean that boat to get it ready, camera ready?
I can just imagine. Oh my God.
I normally keep it pretty clean. Anybody that's ever come on board to take a tour of the boat or anything,
Yeah.
that's the first thing they say. It's just something that goes along with being out at sea a long time.
Yeah, sure.
You
You must
I
be
think the
very
old saying,
organized. You must be a very
Yeah,
organized person.
a place for everything and everything in its place.
That's
the
it.
old saying.
That's the old saying, right? Exactly. This is amazing that you took this trip and you got this incredible boat that you're sailing on, and I mean risk assessment and again I go back to the days of loneliness, the days of you just pondering out there, and you're thinking to yourself, did I make the right choice? When you're against the odds and you're out in the middle of nowhere that, you might have taken the trip around, but not as to the extreme as what you did. And, you're just looking around and there's no land, you're alone, and my God, and it's dark and it's everything, you create it, and it's crazy. Did you think about, maybe this could be my last trip, or did that ever cross your mind?
Yeah, there's definitely, there were plenty of times where I questioned my life choices out there, where you're in either really bad weather and it's scary because you don't know if you're going to survive the night, or you're in absolutely no wind at all. The boat's getting pushed around by the waves, and it goes on and on and on, and the noises and the fact that you're not making any progress is just driving you crazy. to the point of screaming and yelling and crying and all that sort of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
you definitely go through those sort of highs and lows. But
Well, I have a video that I want to show, and it kind of stresses the point of, I guess, those nights that, it was bad weather and it's, dark, you're alone, and you're trying to get some shut eye. This video is incredible. Check this out.
Jesus. Oh, man. I'm running away from a southeast gale that's forming to the north of me. So the wind is coming right now from about the southeast, probably about force 6. So I'm beating hard into the wind to get south of it. Hopefully, as I get further south, the forecast says it should ease up and these waves will ease up. But I'm backtracking. I just crossed my track from yesterday afternoon, so I'm already 24 hours behind of where I was. I think if I would have downloaded the weather last night instead of this morning, Jesus! I gotta come off the wind or reduce sail.
yeah, that was a painful hit. I sustained quite a bit of cracks and stuff from that one. That just that one hit alone.
So
just, little fissures.
Yeah, it's just curious because it's pitch black. I mean, I'm sure you have some running lights and some lights that are powered by the solar. Do you have that you could see that when you go up on the deck that you could see in case that you have to check for damage or anything like that?
Well, at that point, about halfway around, maybe just past Australia, New Zealand, my battery system was pretty much failing, and I had those little blow up solar powered lights that I could hang in the cockpit here or in the cabin to give me some light. But I other than that, it was pretty much just a headlamp, and
wow.
So you'd pretty much just be using that. And I had been knocked over a few times by big waves, so the lights that were on the mast that would illuminate the deck, those were all salt water corroded, and they stopped working pretty quickly on the voyage. But
well, I'll tell you you made great usage of the GoPro camera. I think GoPro should be your sponsor.
Well, I didn't know what I was doing. I almost didn't even bring that with me.
Oh my God.
And I'm really glad I did, but I just, I wish I would have had a little bit more foresight into how interested people would be in the trip, because
oh my God,
I would have had little mounts and things, because when the weather got really bad and would have been very impressive to see, the last thing I could do is stand up there with a camera in my hand. It was pretty much the last thing on the list.
Yeah. I have a clip here. And it's I guess it's an old adage when you're at sea, red sky morning, sailors take warning. Is that the so let's check out why it's dangerous when it's a red sky morning.
Pretty nasty. Boy, those are the colors. Woo! Whoa! Wow! All right, Jerome checking in on old Mighty Sparrow. Been hove to for a couple hours, waiting for the winds to shift from one 180 coming straight out of the south, go back up to a northerly breeze so I can start running my way down. Going to South Carolina, still got about 600 miles. A little frustrating right now, but as you can see, crummy out. Temperatures dropping from this squall. And it looks like we're getting our wind shift because we're starting to swing! So I gotta get this baby rolling. I'll check back in once it starts steaming. Alright, later.
Oh my God, man. That's insane. That is insane.
It's very typical of sort of, you get these little weather systems that blow through. I would say the majority of the time out there, it's sunny, the winds are steady, and everything is all good. But you get those days, and probably the hardest thing is that you have to be up and ready to change sail and do all sorts of stuff all the time. And the minute you think you're all good and you head down to your bunk, all of a sudden something changes and you got to get right back up and go get wet and all that. So
the physical part of this trip,
not the best time.
No, not at all. I mean, the physical part of this trip must be exuberating. I mean, my God, the wear and tear on your body alone, because, you know, being a sailor, I mean, you gotta deal with, you know, the elements. You got to deal with the boat constantly moving around, and then you have to, you know, deal with the sail and properly store it and move it up and down and try to capture, you know, the wind just right so you keep on moving. You must have been dead ass tired, man, at the end of the day.
I would say absolutely. Places like the Southern Ocean and the doldrums, where the winds are just sort of variable and the waves are big and you're always having to hold on to everything you're doing, and it's cold typically, at least in the Southern Ocean.
Right.
That wears on your body pretty hard. I mean, my hands looked really bad. Excuse me, they looked really bad by the time I got out of the Southern Ocean. And
so gloves? You don't wear any gloves?
My thinking on gloves is that if you start wearing them, you'll always need them. And if something happens to them and then you don't have them, you know, I built my calluses up by the time I got to the south, and
wow,
you know, they definitely handled it pretty well. But once it started to peel off, because when you hit the trade winds around our planet, so basically north and south of the equator, it's a big belt of consistent winds, and you've got the northeast trades in the north and the southeast trades in the south, and that's when sailing is, you set your sails, you crank back with a good book or turn on some music, and you can just relax. I mean, there was the portion where I sailed past Brazil and towards the Caribbean was 12 days of probably the most boring sailing I've ever done in my life, where I barely touched the sails, never really had to do much of anything besides just do my routine checks.
Right.
But I could have slept 12 hours a day if I wanted to.
Is that right? Wow. I have another clip here of when you're closing in on the Cape Horn, and that's like near Chile down there, Argentina.
Yeah, so that's the tip of South America, and it's basically sort of the Mount Everest of sailing, if you will.
Wow.
It's you're within about 600 miles of Antarctica. It's the furthest south point of land on any continent, and because the Southern Ocean basically is uninterrupted, the only place where it gets sort of squeezed is between Cape Horn and Antarctica. And so you've got these wild storms that are wrapping around Antarctica that just flow unhindered. They build up giant waves, the winds get really big, and then basically what happens is it gets pinched in between the Andes through this little 500-mile gap. And if things get really out of hand down there, you're pretty much really in the worst place possible. So it's a scary place. You know that you're sailing over the graves of thousands of sailors from the past. And you definitely feel it. There's a different sort of weight that place holds when you're down there.
All right, let's take a look at this video. This is incredible. Check it out. Wow, that's insane, man. You're you're one with your boat, man. I tell you, you're all over that thing. You go on the bridge there, and you're hopping around.
After that much time out there, you do. I mean,
yeah, I guess you can dance on the water, man, and just go on.
Sea legs. You can smell a squall. You wake up from any sort of issues. It's pretty amazing.
And that, I guess, we go back to sleeping. On a boat like that, you're tossing and turning, and you can't get a steady sleep at all. I mean, you're constantly moving.
That's sort of the thing. It's kind of interesting. As long as the boat is in a normal rhythm, because obviously the boat sails itself. I just have to basically be there in case things change weather-wise. And once the boat gets into a rhythm with things, then I can sleep. The sounds that the boat makes are all the same. And if there is an odd sound that comes out, like something pinging on the deck, or a sail flogging away, or anything like that, that will wake me up. And you start to really trust those sort of senses, and then you can actually sleep pretty well. It's not what I would consider a deep sleep. I rarely ever dream when I'm out there. It's typically just a real shallow little sleep. Every once in a while, I'll have a dream, and usually, if I wake up during that, I run on deck because I don't know where I am. I'm like, what's going on? What's going on?
And are your dreams nightmares, or are they just dreams?
Just dreams. I mean, oddball dreams, because there's all this extra sensory input, with the sound and the motion. It can kind of throw you into sort of this strange mental state. I know I definitely, when I'm on a dock or I'm anchored somewhere and the waves sort of pick up and I'm sleeping, that will give me crazy dreams always, because I know I don't have to do anything. I just have to be there. But I don't know. I've had some pretty interesting thoughts go through my head. Let's just say that.
You tell this story, and I heard about it on another interview, and it struck me because of my name, Buzzeo. So you talk about Buzz Ashes, of somebody that you knew, or is it your dad or somebody?
It was my childhood, my best friend from childhood. His father was sort of a big adventurer. He did mountain climbing and expeditions and things, and he was just sort of, when I was a kid, he was the guy who we all looked up to. Like, we were crazy.
Wow.
You'd see all these pictures of him on a mountaintop or on a river rafting thing, whatever. And he was really cool. But he was more excited about this voyage than I was. I mean, he couldn't believe it. He owned a small sailboat, and he had always talked about doing something like this. And,
Right.
And it just never really happened. But he passed away about 2 years before I left. And,
Oh man.
yeah, so they ended up having him cremated, and my friend gave me his ashes, which I still actually have some on board, and he wanted me to spread them around the world. And so
Wow.
basically, when I was in the middle of each ocean, or when I crossed the equator, or anytime I was under one of the 5 southern capes, a little bit of buzz went over the side. And I had this sort of little ceremony because I had all these flags and stuff. I mean, you know, anything to keep the day interesting, I guess. But
you get the old bottle of scotch out there and give him a send off. And
absolutely, one for him, one for me, all that stuff. And I don't know, it was cool because in a lot of ways he was an inspiration for the trip, or at least a small portion of it. And it, you know, I often always, you know, if I'm not pushing myself hard, or I'm really not doing what I probably should be doing,
right,
those are sort of the people that I think about. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, what would Buzz think of this right now? He'd probably tell me to quit complaining, quit crying, get back to it. And then all of a sudden I'm right there and I'm back into it.
And it gives you a little push.
Having some of those inspirational people are pretty cool.
Oh yeah. So it's important, especially doing a trip like that and being alone. And I tell you, you had plenty of time of thinking about things and you know, plotting your next move in this whole journey. Concerns, and it was touched on a little bit of that last video that we showed about water and how you captured water from a sail because of.
Yeah, well, in that video, that showed it kind of well, because, you know, once you're that far south, obviously it's so cold that it's snowing and it's hail. So that actually made it pretty easy because I could just go scoop it out of the sail.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially, I was catching rainwater because my emergency, you know, desalinization pump broke in the Indian Ocean on day like 85 or something. So for the remainder of the voyage, I had to rely completely on rainwater. And out in the ocean, to be able to actually catch rain, it has to be kind of just right. Like the wind and waves can't be too much, or else too much salt water is getting mixed in. It has to rain long enough so that it cleans off the sails of all the salt, because that salt will build up to the point where you could scrape it off the deck and use it on your food. I mean, it builds up really, really thick. And the other thing is sometimes it doesn't rain for like a month. And so from the middle of the Indian Ocean until I was back in the Atlantic, so somewhere around 3 to 4 months, where I had less than 20 gallons of fresh water on board at any time. And I got down to as low as 2 gallons for a little bit of a time. And that was really scary because you have to ration it, obviously. And when you're eating pretty disgusting food out of pouches, your digestion already isn't great. But when you're only drinking, 32 ounces of water in a day or less,
you got to keep hydrated.
That does
Absolutely.
to your body.
Yeah.
And you're in a salty environment that's trying to suck every bit of moisture out of you as well. So it got pretty scary. But it also, in some ways, it forced me into a situation where I really had to become one, not only with the ocean, but also with the sky and the clouds. I couldn't not pay attention to every little squall that was coming. And normally on a boat, when it rains, you're kind of hiding down below. You don't want to get all wet. It's miserable. When it rained from that point on, I was the happiest guy you saw. I mean, I'm jumping around, trying to fill jugs, trying to do anything and everything. It was amazing. So in a way, having to rely on that for fresh water, that made it so that I was so much more in tune with what was going on in the world around me. And it just flipped the whole idea of a rainy day on a boat. So there was sort of a silver lining, you know, but
Right.
if I had the choice, I would have had an electric water maker that I just hit a button and it just produces.
Yeah, right. That would be so much better. I have a clip of some whales that you happen to do a flyby on your boat there, and this is another incredible thing because I mean, you know, it's not every day that you go sailing with the whales here. And
well, and this one, let me just set it up if you
Yeah.
will, George. So this is in the middle of the Indian Ocean, halfway between Africa and Australia. There's two little islands. It's the only islands out there, called Amsterdam Island and St. Paul. And as I'm maybe 30 or 50 miles south of them, all of a sudden I start seeing these huge red streaks in the water. And I didn't know what it was at first. I thought it was like algae. And I finally scooped some up, and it was krill, you know, the little tiny red shrimp.
Yeah.
And that's obviously the whale, that's whale food. And so I'm seeing more and more and more of it. And I remember uttering my last words one night and saying, God, I wonder where the whales are. I can't believe this. And this video is from the very next morning at about 6 a.m. I basically just stepped into the cockpit, and you'll see what I saw.
This is amazing. Check it out. Here we are. And you're right now. What are you doing now? You know that they're there, and you're just looking for them. And
I know
do they travel in packs?
When I walked out,
yeah, there's one right there.
You know, I never saw more than 3 or 4 together at a time. There were 2 whales in this encounter, and they were obviously just very curious about what I was and what I was doing.
Interesting.
To the point where I think they were actually trying to look at what was on deck. I think they were actually trying to look at me.
Wow. Well, yeah.
But
I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere, man. You're in their house. You know?
I know. Well, and it's way different than taking a whale watching tour from Cape Ann or something. You know,
you think?
you're in their realm, and they're curious, and they're as big, if not bigger, than you. So it's a little scary. But you see how they were surfacing on their side, and so they were looking straight up at what was going on. And the other scary thing was that the bottom of my boat is painted basically the same color as the krill.
Oh, so, okay.
In a way, I was thinking, oh man, I hope they don't, you know, come up here and start, you know, trying to take a bite.
Yeah. Oh my God. And at one point at the end of this video, they cross you.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, they were going under. I mean, there we go. Definitely didn't need my coffee that morning.
No.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, they were there. The whole encounter lasted about an hour. And you know, after the initial shock and then videoing for about 10, 15 minutes, I put the cameras down and I just sort of sat back and enjoyed. And they sort of gave us a little more distance after a bit, but they were with me for a good hour, and it was amazing. I mean, you know, you could tell that they were definitely intelligent animals, and they were just curious about, you know, what this person is doing out here on this boat. I mean, you know, there's not a lot of traffic in that area, that's for sure. And what traffic there is typically has giant engines on it.
Right.
You know,
big oil tankers or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And I want to let it go for a little bit more here because it shows how it got really close to the bow there, right?
Uncomfortably close.
Yeah. I think here it comes now. I mean, look how close you are to this. Amazing. I think he's.
Well, and their breath smells really bad, really bad.
That's how close you were. You could smell their breath.
I was getting a good plume right on top of me.
Wow. Wow. This is cool, man. I mean, you can see it right there. Yeah.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
But it's scary. I mean, I didn't know if it was trying to mate with the boat or.
Well, yeah, because you got to worry about the keel, right? Because the keel goes down and they could clip it and flip you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, there he goes. There he goes.
I was really worried about the rudder
The rudder.
more than
Yeah.
anything because its tail was getting so close to the rudder that with just the wrong little flick, if that whale hit it, could snap that rudder right off.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'd be in some serious trouble. Yeah, but
Oh,
luckily they're more agile than I could have ever imagined, and it just gave me an experience that I'll never forget for the rest of my life.
No, absolutely not. And just being out there and seeing all sorts of other wildlife, right? I mean, birds and stuff like that, and just tapping along, and they become your buddies, and
the albatross down there are unbelievable. I mean, you have tons of various types of birds. You almost always see them, and sometimes you see tons of them. But the albatross is one in its own. I mean, the biggest I ever saw probably had about a 9 or 10 foot wingspan, and these things are absolutely massive. And the thing is, you never see them actually flap their wings. They just glide along, and they're touching the tips of their wings to the waves, and they're absolutely massive, majestic, and you start seeing them probably around 35 degrees south on the planet, and then if you get above that, they just disappear. So you always remember your first albatross you saw, and then you remember the last one. Albatross. But they're pretty cool.
I have a clip here, and it's crazy, man. Look at this. You're climbing the mast. I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere, and you're scooting up there like a little monkey, and you're going up there on the mast. And to do something like this, I mean, really, you're not connected,
scary.
And I mean, look at that.
Luckily, it's a really calm day there. So because I don't mess around when you climb the mast.
Safety first.
Really, I mean, I've had to do it in situations where the waves are kind of big, and that's where you're holding on for dear life. But
I mean, talk about OSHA classes. You got to be like OSHA 1000 on that one. I mean, that's
I mean, there's no harness, there's no line, nothing.
No.
But I have these little ladder stairs basically that I can climb up, and this one I'm just taking a little shot. But normally, the only time I'll go up there is if I absolutely need to inspect something or fix something. So.
Wow. What a trip, man! And then you're coming back, and there was you must have been exhausted. This is like near the end of the trip, and you go and you do a flyby near the Virgin Islands, and somebody shot this.
A quick flyby through. Yeah, this was on Virgin Gorda in the British Virgin Islands, and that was home to the Bitter End Yacht Club, and still is. They're actually rebuilding their resort, but that's where I used to work to earn the money to buy the boat. And so I've got a lot of good friends. That community's just fantastic down there, and so I promised I would do a flyby. So that's me. I think that's about day 152 or something like that.
Wow.
So I'm sure, I can't imagine what I must have looked like to them. But I definitely got a lot of good laughs out of everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do have a before and after shot. So you look like old man of the sea there on that one. That's crazy.
A little bit different. The eyes have a totally new perspective on the world. That's for sure.
And I do have one last video here that's just it's a great little welcome home video that was made. I don't know who produced it, but it just really ties a bow on your whole trip when you came back home. And let's take a look at that. what a welcome,
that
man.
brings back some memories. Yeah.
Yeah,
Neat.
what a welcome. I mean, to have all those people and to see all those people after, 270 something days.
Well, that clip that was from the Virgin Islands. That was still the bitter end and everything in the background. So
Oh,
I
so
still had 18 days to go.
Oh, you said 18 days to go.
And I was worried that whole time I was in such close proximity to those boats and the docks and everything, and they wanted just to take as many pictures as they could.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to crash or something like that because I didn't have a motor. At that point, I had no more fuel, so the engine doesn't work, and I was sort of just drifting around in there. But that was probably one of the most tempting times to actually just say I've gone far enough and put the anchor down there. But I knew that I had to get home, so it was back out to sea right after that.
Yeah, and when you got home, after being out on sea there for all those days and traveling all those miles, and you must have said to yourself, I got to get myself some food, and you had a pizza.
I know where you're going with this one. Yeah,
you had a pizza.
What the one of the things that both the Appalachian Trail and sailing around the world have taught me more than anything is that when if you have something that you really like in life, if you can keep yourself from having it for a long time, so you just sort of separate from it, and then after months have gone by, you get back to it. Oh my God, you can turn the most boring thing into the most wonderful, absolute greatest thing that could happen in the world, and this video shows that for sure.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
The real emotions there.
I'm literally tearing up. This is too personal for this.
That makes me want to, not have pizza for
right
2 or 3 months just so that I can make it taste that good again. But it'll never taste that good again.
No, never. But I mean, you were making pizza on board the trip, right? I mean, but I didn't taste like that.
No, I didn't have any pizza.
I don't know. Okay. I mean, I thought you said, I could make a pizza and this and all this stuff.
Oh, maybe the closest thing probably would have been ravioli. I had plenty of that.
Freeze-dried ravioli?
I had some freeze-dried, and then some of it was in cans. So that was one of my favorites. When that ran out, although no, when I ate the last of my bacon, which was 40 days into the trip.
Oh man,
that was upsetting. Holy cow!
No,
I could have kept that for longer, but what can you do?
So you got the book out, right?
Yep.
And Sailing into Oblivion, amazing. And when did this come out?
That one, it came out in February of 2020. So
okay.
the winter after my trip, I went down to the Caribbean and I anchored and I sat down and I wrote this book. I knew I needed to do it quickly, and so I before the memories started fading and all that sort of stuff, so I punched it out, and then I went in search of a publishing company. And after I got rejected for basically a year because it was such a niche sort of a niche audience, I guess, I finally just ended up going to Amazon and producing it as an ebook, and then producing it as a paperback, and then it sort of took off after that. Are you still hearing me? I know.
I am still hearing you. Your picture froze there. I don't know if can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can still hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we just got a still shot of you up there. This is incredible, man, and such an inspiring, talk that we had about your trip, and I'm sure that you were writing down your memoirs on. Oh, we just lost them.
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I basically really wanted to be able to write a book that was easy and fun to read for a non-sailor as well as a seasoned sailor. And I wanted to make it sort of fast-paced because a lot of the books that are written about that subject, solo sailing around the world, I don't want to say they're difficult to get through, but if you're not interested in that subject, then they can be a little slow, I guess. And so I tried to make mine sort of fast-paced and everything, and it seemed to have been received really well so far. And the audiobook just came out on Audible, so it's been a bigger success than I thought it would be.
That's great.
It's my first book.
Yeah, no, that's great that you have an audio book on it too. And are you doing the audio for it, or are you hiring somebody? Or did you hire somebody?
I did it. I read it all myself. Yeah.
Oh wow! Now I think I'd lost you completely. Are you there?
Nope. Can you still hear me?
You're on the boat, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm on the boat.
All right, so this is turning into a radio show. So all right. So I'm just going to go to my own camera here. All right, so this is great, Jerome, and it's fantastic to have you on the show. I can't thank you enough for being on the Buzz Talk Live show and to go through the whole journey of your trip, and what an unbelievable trip you had. And what's planned? What's next?
I'm not 100% sure. I do have a couple of ideas. One would be another ocean adventure. And then I also wouldn't mind heading back out into the woods to either do the Pacific Crest Trail or possibly do the Continental Divide Trail. So
wow.
I have to sort of pick my timing, because all of those are, months and months and months of planning and then carrying it out. So I definitely would like to do it sooner rather than later, but I am sort of licking my wounds from this last one. And
sure.
I spent basically everything I had, and got told no. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens.
See what happens. And look, you got great memories of your trip, and that'll last a lifetime. You're hopefully you're making good on the book here, and with everything else that you're doing in and around boating, and inspiring others. You got you're speaking to it, right? You're a motivational speaker. You got that tour going on.
Well, I used to. Obviously, we can't do that right now. But
not right now.
I've had a few online ones, but really, I found my real second passion, besides going out and doing these trips, is being able to go and speak to audiences live.
Yeah.
I had so much fun doing that, and I'm really looking forward to being able to do that again.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, and being in the live events industry, we have motivational speakers all over the place that come and give talks to sales forces and all. And you would be inspiring to speak in front of people about your trip and inspire others to, just for as far as what you've done, and tie it into what they do in their business. Anybody out there that needs a motivational speaker, Jerome Rand.
Sailing into Oblivion.com.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. That's awesome. And again, I'm so happy that you came on Buzz Talk Live, and I really appreciate you stopping in tonight. It was a pleasure talking to you. I'm honored to have you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time out on aboard the Mighty Sparrow.
Well, thank you very much, George. I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. You're a great interviewer, and
thank you.
Wish you the best of luck with the show.
All right. Very good. Very good. That was Jerome Rand. I mean, world-class sailor around the world. Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. So look for his book, and please, if you need him to speak in front of your sales force for a motivational topic or motivational speech, please do get in touch with him. What's the website and all your contact there, Jerome?
It's pretty much just sailinginto.oblivion.com, sailing into oblivion, everything, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok,
Right.
all that sort of stuff. And you can find it all there.
Very good. All right, buddy. Be well on the Mighty Sparrow.
Thank you, George.
All right. Hey, join me again on next Sunday, not this Thursday, but next Sunday night with singer-songwriter Wendy Moten and her husband, bass player, touring musician extraordinaire, David Santos, is going to be on the show at 8:30 p.m. Eastern here on the Buzz Talk Live show. Incredible people with incredible talents, both of them. And so be here on Sunday night, next Sunday, on the Buzz Talk Live show. That's it for tonight. Enjoy the Super Bowl. I made this show earlier, so you can enjoy the Super Bowl. And hey, what the hell, right? I mean, kickoff is I don't know, maybe in about 15 minutes or so. So enjoy the game, everybody, and that's all for tonight. Good night, America.